The story of the American Empire is not merely a tale of power and territory. It is a story of ideas, ambition, and the enduring struggle to balance principle with practice. From the revolutionary beginnings in 1776 to its emergence as a global superpower, the United States has shaped the world in ways both remarkable and complex. Its achievements in democracy, innovation, culture, and global leadership have inspired generations. Yet its challenges, division, inequality, ethical dilemmas, and the limits of influence remind us that greatness is never guaranteed. The rise of America demonstrates the power of vision, courage, and collective effort, while its struggles and potential decline underscore the necessity of reflection, responsibility, and adaptability. Every decision, every policy, and every action shapes not only the trajectory of a nation, but the lives of millions within and beyond its borders. The lessons of history reveal that empires endure not merely because of wealth, armies, or influence, but because of their ability to remain true to their founding principles while evolving to meet the demands of changing times. As we consider the rise and fall of the American Empire, we are reminded that the future is not predetermined. The legacy of this nation depends on the choices of its people, their commitment to justice, innovation, equality, and unity. The American story teaches that decline is never inevitable, and that renewal is always possible when ideals guide action, when courage meets responsibility, and when vision is paired with wisdom. In reflecting on this history, we are challenged to understand that the rise and fall of any empire is a mirror for humanity itself, showing that the greatest power lies not in domination, but in the ability to inspire, to adapt, and to uphold the values that define the essence of a nation. The story of the American Empire begins in 1776, when 13 colonies along the eastern coast of what would become the United States declared their independence from Great Britain. This act of rebellion was not only a rejection of foreign rule, but also an embrace of an idea that had never before been attempted on such a scale: that people could govern themselves through laws made by representatives chosen by the citizens themselves. The Declaration of Independence captured the essence of this ambition, asserting that all men are created equal and endowed with unalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This bold vision set the stage for a nation founded on principles rather than the legacy of conquest or monarchy. A nation that would strive to balance freedom with order and ideals with the practicalities of governance. In the early years of the Republic, the United States faced immense challenges. The Constitution was drafted as a framework to unite a diverse set of states with competing interests, aiming to create a government strong enough to maintain unity but limited enough to preserve individual freedoms. George Washington's leadership as the first president set precedents for the future, emphasizing neutrality in foreign affairs and the importance of national unity. Throughout the late 18th and early 19th centuries, the nation expanded westward, driven by the idea of manifest destiny, the belief that Americans were destined to spread across the continent. This expansion brought economic growth and new opportunities, but it also carried profound human costs, including the displacement of Native American tribes and conflicts over slavery, which would eventually culminate in a brutal civil war that tested the resilience of the nation and its commitment to its founding ideals. After the Civil War, the United States entered a period of rapid industrialization and urbanization. Railroads, factories, and technological innovation transformed the economy and society, positioning the nation as a rising global power. Immigrants arrived in massive numbers, adding to the labor force and contributing to a dynamic cultural landscape, while cities became centers of commerce, culture, and political influence. During this period, the United States also began to exert influence beyond its borders, participating in international conflicts such as the Spanish-American War and asserting its presence in the Caribbean and the Pacific, marking the beginning of America's role as a global power. The 20th century saw America fully emerge onto the world stage. Participation in 2 world wars demonstrated both military capability and a willingness to defend democratic ideals, while the post-war era solidified the United States as a dominant economic, technological, and cultural force. The Cold War further defined the nation's international role, shaping foreign policy, military strategy, and domestic politics. During this period, America's values and culture spread globally through cinema, music, and consumer products, reinforcing the image of the United States as a symbol of modernity, freedom, and opportunity. However, with increasing power came increasing complexity. Social movements, economic crises, political polarization, and questions about the ethical use of power highlighted the tensions inherent in maintaining a global empire while upholding the principles of democracy. The late 20th and early 21st centuries revealed the vulnerabilities of even the most powerful nations. Military interventions abroad, economic inequality at home, and political division challenged the cohesion and moral authority that had long defined American leadership. Technology accelerated change, reshaping communication, commerce, and culture, but also introducing new social and political pressures. Environmental concerns, demographic shifts, and questions about global responsibility became central issues, forcing reflection on the journey of the American empire continued through the 19th century, as the young nation sought to define itself both internally and externally. Expansion across the continent was fueled by ambition, economic opportunity, and the belief in manifest destiny, which asserted that Americans were destined to spread their institutions and culture from the Atlantic to the Pacific. This westward movement brought enormous growth, opening vast lands for settlement and commerce, yet it also resulted in profound conflicts, including wars with Native American tribes and the moral and political struggle over slavery. The tensions surrounding these issues culminated in the Civil War, a conflict that tested the survival of the United States and ultimately reshaped the nation's social and political landscape. The abolition of slavery marked a significant achievement in aligning the nation with its founding principles. Yet the post-war Reconstruction period exposed the challenges of uniting a divided society and integrating formerly enslaved people into the political and economic fabric of the country. As the nation recovered from the devastation of the Civil War, industrialization transformed the economy and society, creating unprecedented levels of wealth, innovation, and opportunity. Factories, railroads, and urban centers emerged as engines of progress, attracting waves of immigrants who contributed to the labor force and enriched American culture. Industrial tycoons rose to prominence, shaping the economy and the social hierarchy, while labor movements and political reformers began to demand fairer treatment for workers and greater social equity. The United States also began to look outward, engaging in international conflicts and establishing its influence in territories beyond its borders. The Spanish-American War signaled America's emergence as a global power, granting it new territories and responsibilities in the Caribbean and Pacific and setting the stage for a more active role in world affairs. The 20th century brought both opportunity and challenge as the United States navigated global conflicts and economic upheavals. Participation in World War I demonstrated the nation's growing capacity for military power and international engagement, while the Great Depression revealed vulnerabilities in economic systems and governance, prompting significant social and political reforms under the New Deal. World War II solidified America's position as a global leader, combining military might with industrial productivity to support both victory abroad and prosperity at home. The post-war period, defined by the Cold War, saw the United States compete with the Soviet Union for global influence, shaping foreign policy, military strategy, and domestic culture. This era also witnessed the rise of American culture on a global scale through music, cinema, literature, and technological innovation, establishing the United States as a model for modernity, progress, and opportunity, while highlighting the complexities of wielding such influence responsibly. As America entered the late 20th and early 21st centuries, the nation faced internal and external pressures that tested its resilience and adaptability. Technological advances revolutionized communication, commerce, and culture, accelerating change but also introducing new social and political challenges. Globalization expanded economic opportunities while creating competition and raising questions about the sustainability of domestic industries. Social movements continued to press for equality, justice, and human rights, highlighting both progress and persistent inequalities. Political polarization deepened, and debates over the nation's role in international conflicts, economic policy, and environmental responsibility intensified, revealing the delicate balance required to maintain global leadership while addressing domestic needs. The complexities of power, wealth, and influence shaped the American empire's trajectory into the modern era illustrates both the heights of achievement and the complexities of sustaining global power. Following the transformations of the 19th century, the United States entered the 20th century with unprecedented economic strength, technological innovation, and a growing influence on the international stage. Industrialization and urbanization continued to reshape society, creating opportunities for millions while also exposing deep social inequalities and labor tensions. The influx of immigrants brought new cultures, ideas, and skills, contributing to the nation's dynamism while also generating debates over identity, assimilation, and social cohesion. The emergence of the United States as a global power coincided with its engagement in international conflicts, including World War I, which tested both its military capabilities and diplomatic strategies. Participation in these wars demonstrated the nation's capacity to project power abroad while also shaping domestic policies and societal norms as citizens experienced shifts in labor, economy, and political expectations. The interwar period presented a combination of prosperity and profound challenges. The Roaring Twenties reflected the nation's growing economic confidence and cultural experimentation. Yet the Great Depression revealed the vulnerabilities inherent in rapid industrialization and unregulated markets. Millions faced unemployment, poverty, and uncertainty, prompting significant federal intervention to stabilize the economy and address social welfare. The New Deal. Policies reshaped the relationship between the government and its citizens, emphasizing the need for systemic support during times of crisis and demonstrating the capacity of the American political system to adapt in response to unprecedented challenges. These domestic developments occurred alongside rising global tensions as totalitarian regimes threatened international stability, eventually drawing the United States into World War II, a conflict that would define its role as a preeminent global power. World War II marked a turning point in the nation's trajectory, demonstrating both military prowess and economic dominance. The United States mobilized resources on an unparalleled scale, producing military equipment, supplying allies, and ultimately achieving victory while shaping the post-war international order. The establishment of institutions such as the United Nations and the Bretton Woods system positioned America as a central architect of global governance, finance, and diplomacy. Following the war, the Cold War defined decades of foreign policy as the United States engaged in competition with the Soviet Union for ideological, political, and technological influence. This period saw the expansion of military alliances, nuclear deterrence strategies, space exploration, and significant investments in education and innovation, reflecting a belief in progress, security, and global leadership, while also raising questions about the ethical and practical limits of power. Domestically, the mid to late 20th century brought social upheaval and transformative change. Civil rights movements challenged systemic discrimination, advocating for racial equality, gender equity, and expanded civil liberties. Cultural revolutions, technological advancements, and shifting demographics reshaped the American experience, creating both opportunities for innovation and challenges to traditional social structures. Economic growth generated unprecedented prosperity for some, while highlighting disparities in wealth and access for others, reflecting the tensions inherent in maintaining a democratic society that also operates within a capitalist framework. Political polarization intensified as ideological divisions deepened, shaping governance, policy, and public discourse, and influencing perceptions of the nation's role both at home and abroad. Entering the 21st century, the story of the American empire in the 21st century reflects both its enduring influence and the profound challenges it faces in a rapidly changing world. The United States has long been a symbol of innovation, democracy, and cultural leadership, shaping global politics, economics, and technology, yet it confronts new pressures that test its ability to maintain its position. The early decades of the century were marked by rapid technological advancement, globalization, and the expansion of information networks, creating unprecedented opportunities for economic growth, communication, and cultural exchange. These changes have enabled the United States to lead in areas such as digital technology, scientific research, entertainment, and higher education, reinforcing its global influence while simultaneously introducing new forms of competition and vulnerability. Economic developments in the 21st century have highlighted both strength and fragility. The United States remains one of the largest economies in the world, a center for innovation, finance, and trade, yet economic inequality, debt, and financial crises have underscored systemic vulnerabilities. The 2008 financial collapse demonstrated how interconnected global markets could amplify domestic challenges, leading to widespread unemployment, social unrest, and calls for reform. The subsequent recovery relied on a combination of governmental intervention, private enterprise, and public resilience, illustrating both the adaptability and the limitations of existing economic structures. These dynamics have revealed the tension between economic power and social stability, emphasizing that sustaining influence requires not only innovation and productivity, but also fairness, equity, and social cohesion. Internationally, the United States continues to play a dominant role in global affairs, yet its position is increasingly contested. Military interventions, foreign policy decisions, and diplomatic engagement reflect an ongoing effort to balance national interests with global responsibilities. Conflicts in the Middle East, responses to emerging superpowers, and involvement in international alliances demonstrate both the reach and the limits of American power. At the same time, global challenges such as climate change, pandemics, and cybersecurity threats require cooperation, innovation, and leadership that go beyond traditional forms of dominance, highlighting the need for adaptability and strategic foresight. The interplay between global engagement and domestic priorities shapes perceptions of the United States, both abroad and within its own borders, influencing policy decisions and national identity. Social and cultural evolution remains a defining feature of the American empire in this era. Demographic changes, cultural diversity, and shifting social norms continue to reshape the nation's identity and influence its political landscape. Movements advocating for civil rights, gender equality, environmental responsibility, and social justice challenge institutions to adapt, while reinforcing the foundational principles of liberty and democracy. Cultural influence through media, technology, and popular culture continues to project American values worldwide, even as internal debates highlight divisions and the ongoing struggle to reconcile ideals with practical realities. Education, innovation, and civic engagement are central to the nation's ability to navigate these changes, ensuring that the principles of participation, knowledge, and responsibility remain vital in a complex and interconnected world. The technological revolution has become one of the defining elements of the American empire in the 21st century. Advances in artificial intelligence, space exploration, biotechnology, and digital communication have positioned the United States at the forefront of innovation, enabling economic growth, scientific discovery, and global influence. However, these same technologies